Hi, this is DeGogo from Cold Fusion, partnering with the ABC. Imagine losing your life savings in one 5-minute phone call. Well, that's unfortunately what's happened to millions of people around the world.
A couple in Golden scammed out of nearly $140,000 through a sophisticated phishing scam.
What happened to Scott and Kate Zoll began with a text to Scott's phone, supposedly from Chase Alerts, asking, "Did you attempt to send a wire transfer for the amount of $4,500?
So I then called the bank branch to see if they could see any activity on my account. I received a phone call from the exact number that the branch had just given me.
What Scott never guessed is the call from Chase Alerts saying a representative will be contacting you shortly was actually the scammers who had spoofed the Chase fraud number, leaving Scott to think he was talking with Chase Bank. Scott isn't sure how, but says the scammers already had his bank account number and knew how much money he had. All they needed from Scott was a one-time passcode that he did in fact receive via text from real Chase, only to then unwittingly share it with the scammer who was pretending to be Chase Bank.
The general purpose of a scam is to illegally obtain money or personal information from individuals. There's those classic emails sent by princes promising to share their fortune with you, for a fee of course, to a strongly accented man asking you to use gift cards to pay for a Microsoft Windows update. We all know scams have been around for a while, but recently, scams have changed. With the rise of generative AI and newer techniques, scammers are more prevalent and more sophisticated than ever. Globally, an estimated $1.02 trillion has vanished from the pockets of innocent people between August 2022 and August 2023. That's up almost 100% on the previous year. Gen X and Boomers are more likely to fall for scams rather than millennials, but interestingly, Gen Z is less likely to fall for scams than millennials. In the special episode, we'll take a look at the common types of scams, how they work, and how technology is playing a role. This is part 1 of a 2-part series. In the next episode, we'll see how you can protect yourself. If I told you that there was a subscription service that was a one-stop platform for scammers on the dark web, would you be surprised? Well, of course there was one. It was called LabHost and was recently shut down in a global sting operation. It was the place to find resources and tools on how to scam people, and it was as simple as paying a monthly subscription fee.
It aimed to provide an easy step-by-step guide on how to download and use fake sites. Unsuspecting members of the public would then believe those sites were pages from legitimate businesses like banks and retailers, all with the aim of phishing, of fooling victims into revealing personal details which would be used to commit fraud.
This event is really just another sign that scams are basically a commodity these days. So how do scammers get victims' details? Well, an extremely efficient way of doing that is through hacking, and thus, hacking has become increasingly common. Australia is having a tough time of it. Optus, a company which has about 30% of mobile provider market share in Australia, was hacked. And Telstra, which has 43% of market share, was also hacked. The healthcare provider Medibank was hacked. Even the Australian Labor Party and the Western Australian Parliament has been hacked. But internationally, hacking is happening everywhere. We've seen major hacks of the Sony PlayStation Network, LinkedIn, Uber, Bank of America, the genetic service 23andMe, the Facebook platform itself, Adobe, eBay, and Canva, just to name a few. In total, billions of people's information is now potentially in the hands of bad actors. Okay, but what kind of information can be obtained from such hacks? In a nutshell, a lot. Names, birth dates, addresses, phone numbers, even passport information, driver's license numbers, government ID numbers, and medical records. This information can be sold on the dark web to scammers, and AI can be used to automatically reach out, posing as a bank or another service. Quote, AI produces not just a spam or phishing email, but it can also be personalized or target the victim using their data. It's a big concern. With AI's help, scammers don't even have to be good at English anymore, which makes it harder for individuals to detect scummy tactics. So now we know how scammers steal personal information, let's take a look into how they make the lives of so many miserable. It's common today for scams to showcase increasing complexity. It's fooling millions of people around the world. Now, if it wasn't so deplorable, the effort put into some of these schemes would actually be impressive. From romance scams, to fake investments, to AI voice cloning, it's getting crazy out there.
We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
We all know of deepfakes, where anyone can be visually cloned to say things that they never uttered. And when they're used for scams, it can be devastating. In fact, recently, an elderly Australian woman lost her life savings through a deepfake of Elon Musk. This happened via social media, and she clicked the link and registered her details online, giving her personal information away to scammers. But recently, the level of deceit has gotten even more complex. Voice cloning was the stuff of science fiction, but thanks to AI, it's here now. The following is a famous case that shocked all that heard it. Jennifer DeStefano was about to pick her daughter up from dance class. She would receive the phone call of nightmares. When she picked up, she was shocked to hear her daughter on the other end, crying and pleading. It was a situation that no parent wants to be involved in. Her daughter was being held hostage by men who threatened to traffic her and demanded a $1 million ransom. Quote, "It was my daughter's voice, and she was crying and sobbing and saying, 'Mum.' When she asked what happened, the daughter simply replied, 'Mum, I messed up.' Then the terrified mother heard a man over the phone. 'Lay down, put your head back.' And then it was her daughter's voice again. 'Mum, these bad men have me. Help me, help me, help me.'" End quote. The voice was so realistic that even when Jennifer called her husband and confirmed that he had their daughter and she was safe, she didn't believe it at first. It was only when she talked to her real daughter over the phone did she believe that it was all a scam. Quote, "Her voice was so on point. It was so chilling." End quote. But how is this possible? Well, these days, there are simple apps that can do this. According to cybersecurity experts, AI voice cloning is at such a level that the system just needs 3 seconds of audio of a person speaking to replicate their voice. Okay, sure. Many people have their voices, images, and video all over social media, which makes it easy picking for scammers. But there's a twist. The insane thing is that Jennifer said that her daughter didn't have any public social media accounts. According to her, the hackers cloned her daughter's voice via online interviews with her school and sports groups. Although AI cloning is mostly a US phenomenon, cybersecurity experts warn it's coming to Australia and other countries. Next up, we have the romance scams. They usually start with a Facebook friend request from a profile of an attractive man or woman, sometimes even a celebrity. The profile will befriend a vulnerable older adult, such as a recent divorcee or widow/widower. They get talking and form an online relationship. Once trust is gained, the profile will start asking for money. Small amounts at first, but it will keep piling up. Requests to meet in person will be delayed at the last moment. Usually the profiles are stolen images of real people from Instagram. And one fake profile can scam hundreds of people out of a great deal of money, sometimes even their life savings. It's especially sad because once the scam is done, the victim feels like they've lost a genuine connection as well as their financial security.
He asked me for 470 something pounds for a certificate from Israeli customs.
But when she took this cash to her bank, staff there refused the transfer.
The bank said, "You're definitely being scammed." I know it sounds awful, but I've sort of fallen in love with somebody I hadn't even met. Just sounded so perfect.
Unfortunately, generative AI can make the process even easier for scammers. There's actually an evil twin brother of ChatGPT called WormGPT. It's the same premise, an advanced text generator, but the twist is, it will generate very much illegal content with no limits. And what's worse is they can use leaked personal data from company hacks, like at the start of this episode, and they can use it to train the AI and make it more personalized. Next up, a specific type of romance scam called a pig butchering scam. It's a funny name, but it's growing in popularity for scammers. These are usually carried out on WhatsApp or SMS instead of Facebook, and it goes something like this. An attractive, usually East Asian woman contacts a number, something like, "Hey John, did you get the notes from today's meeting?" When the victim states that they don't know the scammer and they've got the wrong number, the scammer will apologize, but ask to be friends anyway. After building some rapport and general conversation, they'll usually start to indicate some potential romantic interest before the topic will slowly move to some kind of investment opportunity. To appear more enticing, the scammer usually plays the part of a successful individual in their field. The heart of the scam can vary, but it's usually a fake cryptocurrency trading platform that drains the victim out of their money. It can be devastating.
This involves a victim named Sai. He was approached kind of out of the blue from a text message that he got from a person who called herself Jessica. She claimed that they were old work colleagues and they started a conversation that way. Their conversations started moving from kind of chit chat to becoming more frequent and revolving around discussions of finance and specifically around cryptocurrencies. She had him initially transfer money to crypto.com. He put in at first $10,000. Sai didn't totally follow what was happening. He believed that his investment was making money. Jessica would tell him kind of out of nowhere to click buy up or down in the app. He didn't fully understand what that meant, but what he did know was that each time he followed her instructions, almost always it would show that his, purported investments would end higher.
Unfortunately, there's a sad twist to this one. A lot of these scams are being carried out by forced labor under the rule of gangsters. Many committing the scams are tricked into believing that it's an IT job, and then once there, they're forced to work up to 16 hours a day, and sometimes working 11 months without pay. Moving on, next we have one of the most prevalent scams. Now everyone knows about those pesky scam text messages. You know the ones. They pretend to be messages from the post office, government services, or an online order. Their main goal is to get you to click a link that either compromises your information or misleads you into paying money when you didn't need to. Fortunately, some justice is starting to be served. For example, 3 Sydney men were arrested for sending 80 million scam texts from their apartments. And they're not alone. A 39-year-old Sydney man was arrested for sending 17 million scam texts in just 1 week. So how are they possibly sending so many text messages to so many people? Well, there's actually a technology called a SIM box. It's a device used to route VoIP calls through local traffic by connecting to local GSM networks. And they do this using 1 or more SIM cards. And from this, they can avoid international calling tariffs. One SIM box can hold 250 SIM cards and send out 150,000 messages in a week. And next we have Facebook scams. This Facebook scam was pretending to be a parent of a child who needed babysitting. They asked for a $100 gift card. Other scams pose as people who are offering flexible work-from-home jobs. Just pay a small fee and then you'll earn the money back. As you can probably guess, the latter part never happens, and the scammers just run off with your money. And then there's the AI-generated stuff on Facebook. It's particularly bad over there. There's a sea of AI-generated content on Facebook, fooling older demographics. An August 2023 survey by the AARP and NORC found that out of 1,300 US adults aged 50 or older, only 17% of participants said that they've read or heard, quote, a lot about AI. Another study showed that given a mix of real and AI-generated images, older people were much more likely to think that the content was human-made.
Hello everyone. I'm here to tell you about the Neuralink crypto token, the new cryptocurrency that will change the world forever. With this token, you have a unique opportunity to invest in the future of brain-machine interfaces.
Most of us would instantly recognize that this is fake. But if you're much older and don't live on the internet, you would have no idea. Older people's Facebook feeds can be full of AI images and posts, driven by the Facebook algorithm, and they may not even know. There's a particular scheme that uses AI-generated arts and crafts to rope in the elderly into clicking a link that compromises their Facebook account, or even their bank account. And then there's the Hi Mom scam. The Hi Mom scam works as thus. A scammer will pose as your son or daughter, and they'll say something like,
"Hi Mum, I've smashed my phone, but you can't ring me. Can you help me out?"
The fake adult child will then ask for an amount of money, saying that they'll pay it back. Of course, most parents will give it to them, but to add an extra layer of deception, the scammers will say that they've been locked out of their bank account and the money needs to be sent to a third party. Of course, this is not true. And with that is a summary of the most devastating scams hitting people today. Hopefully it's enlightened you a bit, and definitely feel free to share this to someone who you think will benefit, and that's just to spread awareness. It could save them a lot of heartache. But join us for the next episode, so you can see how to protect yourself. Okay, so my name is Dagogo, and I hope to see you again for the next episode. Cheers guys. Have a good one.